What is going on, everybody? John Middlekauff, GoLow podcast. Another week, some more golf content. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. It's on the 3 and Out feed, so subscribe to 3 and Out. You also get GoLow. A lot of content on a weekly basis. Got you covered. Free agency, the PGA Tour, encompasses it all. YouTube, you like this show, you like the volume content, make sure you smash that like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, as well as listen on AMP, live on AMP. We are live on AMP every single week. Go to your smartphone, download the app. Appreciate everyone that is listening. And yeah, before we dive into some golf talk, I wanted to discuss my friends at Gametime. Here's what I need you to do. Go to your smartphone right here. I know you all have one. Apple, iPhone, Android, whatever. Download the Gametime app. And when you do, use the promo code JOHN, J-O-H-N, to get $20 off any pair of tickets. You want to go to a baseball game. You want to go to a hockey game. March Madness. March Madness is all over the country. If you're in Sacramento, if you're in the Midwest, the Northeast, the South, I don't know where you live, but Google where these tournament games are. You want to go to a game, download the Gametime app. First-time users, $20 off. You want to go watch Gonzaga. You want to watch Duke. You want to watch UCLA, Arizona, Purdue. Purdue might be making a run. I might take TCU to make a big run. Use the Gametime app. Promo code John, J-O-H-N, concerts, comedy shows. Take a friend, take your loved ones, have a good time. Do it on me. Thank me later. Back at it again. He's fresh off a Florida swing. Jason Sobel just talking before we hit the record about Aaron Rodgers and his manipulated handicap. Playing us all on the internet, waiting for him to figure out his future destination if he's ever going to play again. But you can hear Sobel talk Rodgers, I'm sure, and way more on the Golf Sirius XM channel 92 every week, 2 to 4. Find him on Action Network. Just read his piece, hammering a pretty famous player to win this week. Decent field for the Valspar. And Links and Locks podcast, and he's just everywhere. So just keep an eye on Sobel. He's got golf. The market cornered. What's up, bro? How you doing?
Forget all that stuff. I want to go back to Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if you're the greatest dude of all time. I don't care if you're the greatest quarterback of all time. You show up to a golf tournament as a 3 handicap and they say, hey, we're going to let you play as a 10, and you don't correct them on it. You are scratched off every list in my book. I'm done with that guy.
Did you see the clip when he won it at Pebble Beach, the Pro-Am? Josh Allen came up to him. He's like, it must be nice. You know, it must be nice cheating your way to a championship here.
Yeah, he knows it. Keith Mitchell called him out too. They all knew it. I was texting with Colt Nost, who was doing the CBS broadcast. And I brought it up to him on Thursday. Like, Rodgers is leading the Pro-Am portion by like 7 shots right now, and he's getting way too many. And he's like, yeah, everyone's starting to talk a little bit. And within 24 hours, he's like, now it's like the biggest story. Like, it's no one's talking about anything besides that. How do you show up as a 3 handicap? I get it. Look, mistakes are made, and they put down your handicap. And it's like, oh, I'm getting 10. You kind of laugh about it, go, that would be great. And then you go up to the tournament director and you go, hey, cross those 7 dots off my card. I can't take them because that's not my handicap. That's how golf works. You don't try to cheat your way to the top. Give me a break, Aaron Rodgers.
You know, it's par for the course with this guy. Have you ever, in all your years around the game,
par net birdie for the course for him? Sorry.
Yeah, true. You know, in all your years in some of these Pro-Ams, especially, you know, Pebble, have you seen some pro athletes, not the celebrities, but some of the quarterbacks, maybe some of the baseball players, manipulate that bad boy a little bit?
Should I call a dude out here?
Yes.
All right. So this was Travelers Championship. Let's see, I was at Golf Channel at the time, about 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago. Bill Murray is in a group playing with, for whatever reason. I don't know why. You've got Bill Murray, one of the greatest comedic actors of all time, and he's playing with J.B. Holmes, who doesn't talk a whole lot. But in any case, it's them, and they've got maybe Kevin Ollie, who's the UConn coach, played in the NBA for a while, Scottie Burrell, who, of course, played on some of those old Jordan teams with the Bulls, and he was a UConn guy as well, so they've got the UConn connection. And at one point, Scottie, who's a good player, and I don't think I ever played with him, but I've, like, you know, been in the same tournaments and same courses with him. Like, you know, we're next to each other on the range, talked and stuff like that. Well, he makes I think on the fourth hole, he makes a birdie. It's a 3 for 2. And I'm like, 3 for 2. And I'm starting looking at the card. I'm like, how many is he getting? Actually, it turned out it was a 3 for 1. Like he was getting like 25 shots that day. And he's like a 3 handicap or a 4 handicap. Like it was very blatant. I'm like, so you guys think he had a shot at winning this thing? I mean, give me a break. And so, yes, I have seen it once before. I don't think it's that uncommon. Make sure that it's not, the guy who's the junior account executive that somehow slid into a pro-am spot goes out there and wins. Now they want the big names to win. They want making the paper the next day.
Yeah. What's funny is I looked up at the TV at about Scottie was probably on hole 8 or 9 on Sunday. And I realized, it's a pretty good tournament. And then Scottie Scheffler, if he was giving some shots to these guys, maybe we would have had, from a gambling standpoint, how does it not make sense to have some exposure to him moving forward in every major, big elevated event moving forward?
Yeah, you're right about that. Except 2 weeks ago, we would have said the exact same thing about Jon Rahm. And so things move quickly.
Him as well. Him as well.
Okay. So if we're like, hey, we're getting the Masters, it's in 23 days, I think, something like that, 22 days. Hey, the Masters is coming up. All right, well, I'm going to bet Rahm and I'm going to bet Scheffler. Well, you don't have a whole lot of room left on your card if you're betting 2 of the favorites right there. So I get it. They're both really good. Throw Rory in the mix, and we sort of have a big 3 right now. I don't know how long that's going to persist. I wouldn't be surprised, John, if like by June or July, we have a big 4 and Justin Thomas is part of it, or a big 5, Colin Morikawa, a big 6, Patrick Cantlay. But right now, there are definitely 3 players who are head and shoulders above the others. And you could certainly make the case that in the big events, Scottie Scheffler has risen to the occasion more so than his fellow competitors. And quite honestly, the biggest take for me here, first of all, 2 of them. First of all, the fact that he's won now 6 times in his last 27 starts, dating back 13 months, but on 5 different golf courses that are like as different as they come. It's not like he's won, 5 of the 6 times in Florida or 5 of the 6 on the West Coast. It's like he's all over the place on different golf courses, different conditions. So that part is really impressive. And the second part of this is the fact that he's taken all the air out of these golf tournaments. So it's not like, wow, really dramatic, fun final round. And, when the wheel stopped spinning at the end of it, Scottie Scheffler wound up on top. This was, as we went to the back 9, if you're laying on your couch watching it at home, you might as well close your eyes and take a little nap. We need a nickname for Scottie. It's something like, the sleeper hold or the snooze button or something like that, because he is quite literally putting golf fans to sleep. Did it at the Masters last year where he had such a big lead. He 4-putted the final green and laughed his way through it and didn't really care. They did it at Phoenix a month ago where, all right, it got a little tight down the stretch, but then he kind of gave everybody the old Heisman stiff arm and kept him away. And they did it again this past week where he made 5 birdies in a row from 8 through 12. And essentially the thing was over by then, unless he put 3 balls in the water at 17, which was never going to happen. We knew who was going to win with 2 hours left in the tournament.
Well, one thing that makes him dangerous, Rory's wedges can be hit or miss. Rahm's done a better job emotionally of getting control of himself. Scottie's temperament is pretty elite. And obviously, he led the tour last year in greens and regulation. If he's hitting fairways, we know he's a great iron player, and his short game is the best of that group. So if he is straight off the tee, he's just going to be hard to beat that week. I don't care if he's playing Rahm or me or you, right?
That is essentially golf right there. You hit it long, you hit it pretty straight. Your irons are the best in the world. Your wedge game is terrific, and you make a lot of putts. There's nothing else. You go to the mental side of things, and you can make the case. And I don't know that I would necessarily make this case. I've heard it, though, a lot, that there's so much weighing on Rory McIlroy with, all the PGA Tour discussions and being asked about LIV and being part of the board. And there's a lot that Rory is dealing with these days. As for Jon Rahm, I don't know what was going on. I never would have thought Jon Rahm has a little bit of a tummy ache right before his tee time and takes off before the second round when he's not way out of it or anything like that. There's something a little, I'm not saying it's fishy. I'm just saying I would like to know the entire story of that, because that's like a Jason Day thing. Like, hey, my tummy's a little weird right now. So, I'm just going to take off and not play in the 5th biggest event of the year. Jon Rahm leaves. There's something to the mindset of Scottie, the mental side of Scottie, which is he's got a really great supportive family, gets along really well with his wife, isn't motivated by money or anything like that, and really likes playing golf. That's it. It's just the distractions. You can see that there are no distractions for him. He's having fun, and it helps him climb these leaderboards.
One quick thing on Rahm, obviously, we talk gambling a lot professionally. You're all in on it. I am a gambler. The PGA Tour, if they're going to be this deep in with gambling, Rahm's a good example, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you have to announce, like if he has a pulled back or something happened to his knee, like even if it's just kind of generic, the NFL does that. And now it's like, am I just going to go into the Masters and he's got a back muscle problem or he's got a shoulder issue? Very plausible. And it's just not going to get out if Rahm and his camp do not want it out. And they have to figure out a way to like at least have some generic lower body, right? Question mark or something, because, this happens a lot with golfers. All of a sudden, a guy who's a betting favorite plays shitty. And then after he's like, well, my wrist has been bothering me, or I've been having, you're like, well, would have been nice to know before I put $100 on you at 25-1.
I've been down this road with PGA Tour executives. It's just, John, it's just not going to happen anytime soon. I mean, you are asking the players, and even more so the player managers who have never said a true word in their lives, to come out and be as forthright as possible. And most of them, I shouldn't say all of them, but most of them are just not going to do that.
But why do they care? Like, what's, a guy if I roll an ankle in football, I roll an ankle. Who cares? Like, no one's blaming you. We're not going to call you like a puss because of it. It's just, you're a human.
I think they don't want to be asked about it over and over afterwards. Now, I have no idea with Rahm. Look, it could be his shoulder hurt. And then, I don't want to be asked about my shoulder. A stomach issue is a good way of, like, 2 weeks later when he plays again, like, how's your stomach? Yeah, I don't know. It's fine the next day. Can't remember it. But if it's a shoulder, it's a knee, it's an elbow, it's a wrist, all of a sudden we're asking that question over and over. And the guy can say, you know what? Just say it's my stomach, so I don't have to deal with all the questions. But maybe it's a family thing. Maybe it's, something happened with one of his kids and all of a sudden he has to leave, but he doesn't want to say something's going on with one of my kids, because then all of a sudden, then it becomes all this speculation and news about it. So he puts it on himself, which is admirable and honorable, I suppose. But we're just not going to get the true story from these guys anytime soon. I wish we would. And again, there's something weird about it. He was on the putting green not long before the tee time. It's not like he was at his hotel room going, I can't leave the room right now. I feel so badly. He was at the golf course. He was on the putting green. He was practicing, and then he left. It's very, very strange to me.
That's bizarre. Okay, before we dive into some thoughts on this week's tournament, big story broke. I got up, checked social media, and this had been simmering for a long time. Explain to the people the rollback situation and how it differentiates. It's not necessarily a PGA Tour thing, it's a USGA thing, and just kind of the semantics behind that.
Yeah, so essentially the USGA and R&A have voted to roll back the golf ball. I believe it starts in 2026. I don't know. There's still a lot up in the air. I think they're looking at a ball that would go 10% less further than the current ball. And maybe it'll be used in PGA Tour competitions. PGA Tour could always say, we don't like that rule. We're going to make a local rule and let you use whatever you want. I think there's more problems that come with this than solutions, from everything from players trying to compete with two different balls throughout the year and figure out which one works, to manufacturers now having to manufacture new balls and get these players working with them, to, I don't know, the whole solution, the whole reason for doing this is that, the golf courses, some of them are becoming slightly obsolete because the players hit it so far. I understand that there are other better solutions. I've been an advocate for a long time, John. Why do we have 14 clubs in the bag? That's just something that somebody came up with. That's the number they came up with 100 years ago, and we all carry 14 clubs. You know what I would like to see? A PGA Tour player playing with 7 clubs in his bag, and all of a sudden when they have 153 with a quartering wind and they've got to hit at 157, they know exactly that that's a full 9-iron, and they hit their shot and it goes the exact right distance. All of a sudden you get 7 clubs in the bag. You're like, I don't have a club for this. I'm going to have to give it a little trajectory. I'm going to have to try to figure this out. The game would be way more entertaining than simply saying, hey, you can't hit your ball as far as you were before. Oh, by the way, rolling back the golf ball is just more of an advantage for the longer hitters. So there's that too.
So just like last week, the players, that was under the umbrella of the USGA rules. Is that the way it works?
Yes. Every event is under the umbrella of USGA rules, but the PGA Tour can institute a local rule, it's called, and essentially overrule the USGA rules.
Does that ever happen on the tour? You can remember?
Yes, there's been very small, like not like, hey, today we're gonna let you, throw your ball down the fairway, kick it out
lift
of the rough.
clean in place, even though it hasn't rained,
Yeah, I mean, there's been local rules in place that are very like sort of, unless you're a diehard golf nerd, you'd be like, oh, who cares? That's not a big deal. But, for the golf nerds in us, I'm trying to think of one in particular, and it's not coming to my mind right now. But yeah, it has happened before.
I would imagine if you ask most casual golf fans or people that watch the PGA Tour, they don't really care. And this is not something they're pounding the table for. Now, I'm sitting on my couch watching Min Woo Lee pound a driving iron 280 yards. And, it's not like he won the tournament, but still, it was a pretty big advantage to just hit this bad boy straight 280. Hell, I'd take that with my driver right now. So I do understand some of the arguments that are coming from the other side.
7 clubs in the bag. He might be able to hit that driving iron 290, but he might not have any wedges. So what's he going to do from there? I'm telling you, this is a good solution to this. No one wants to listen to it, but you scale back the number of clubs. I have like 11 clubs in the bag, and 2 of them I don't think I ever use. It's not that hard to scale it back, and all of a sudden these guys become much less precise by hitting the exact numbers they need to hit all the time. You want to throw driver in the bag, you want to hit it all over the ballpark and hit it 330, go ahead. But when you don't have the right club after you've hit it there, it's going to cause some trouble. I would love to see that.
Didn't Phil a couple years ago play around with 2 drivers in his bag?
I played a few different tournaments, 2 drivers, no drivers, a sort of half driver. What do you call it? The mini driver. That's right. I always thought they should get the actress Mini Driver to do the marketing for that. But yeah, he's done a whole bunch of stuff.
I was snooping around before we dive into Valspar. Liv, I saw some odds. Bryson is 55-1. And it's like, obviously he hasn't played well in a while. These odds are outrageous. I mean, it's like, I might sprinkle a little. This guy's won on the PGA. He's a major champion a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's a big number. You know what? You caught me because I honestly have not looked at the live odds yet for this week. There's some money to be made there. I will say, I do believe that if you're a live fan, you've been watching live events, you've been seeing how these guys play. Now, granted, they're not playing every single week, so it's tough to get a read on, the week in, week out performance level. But if you're paying attention, you're looking at the odds, I think you'd probably do something pretty well. We had Jeff Sherman on the radio show last week. He's at Golf Odds on Twitter. He's the VP of risk for Superbook Sports. And I asked him about the handle for PGA Tour events compared with live. And he said live is only getting about 1/5 of the handle. I go, whoa. That's huge. I thought live would be like 1/500th of the handle of PGA Tour events. But he said, no, there's still some people betting on it here and there. So that was actually way more than I thought it would have been.
My logic on Bryson just moving forward, as long as these odds are kind of crazy, will strictly be weirdo, whatever. I know he tries and works hard, and he will attempt to get better and get back. Some of these guys, I wouldn't feel great. Like Louis, if you told me he hadn't picked up a club in 3 weeks, I believe you. But Bryson, I know he's trying and he takes pride in attempting to win and be relevant on this tour. I just think these odds on Bryson DeChambeau, if they're like, this guy was like under 20-1 on PGA Tour events and majors a year ago, 2 years ago.
Great point.
It's crazy.
No, great point. I would say the same thing about Patrick Reed. Now, I know his odds are probably much shorter, but
Patrick Reed is also the kind of guy
like, I don't care if he's playing in your, we're playing a Nassau for $20. He's going to go all out and try to beat you because he's just very competitive like that.
And his game translates, especially with short game. Okay, Valspar. Yeah. Who do you like?
I'm going Jordan this week, and I've got reasons for this. As we've seen with the entire Jordan Spieth experience over the past few weeks, look, it can be really, really good, and it can get ugly in a hurry. We're seeing full ceilings and low floors within a 9-hole stretch whenever he plays, and it's really fun to watch. He's the most entertaining player out there to watch right now because you never know what you're going to get. But I look at him, as I wrote in the preview this week, John, I look at him like a race car driver. who's essentially over the last couple of months been like, hey, let's get this baby up as fast as we can get it and see what happens. And if we crash and burn, so be it. And I was talking about this with his caddy, Michael Greller, a couple of weeks ago. And I said, all the top players say they want their games to peak 4 times a year, that being the major championships, of course. And then they get to like mid-February and it's like, oh my God, what's wrong with my game? And they start fixing stuff because they're not playing as well as they like. I said, you don't have to agree with me, Michael, but I feel like Jordan has been more patient over the last few years. Doesn't always mean success, but he's been more patient getting to the point where he wants his game to peak. And he agreed with that assessment. He's like, yeah, he does a really good job with that. And the way I look at that is that we shouldn't overrate what Jordan has done over the first couple of months. I think that he understands, look, he'd love to win Pebble. He'd love to go win at Bay Hill, where he was up there. But really, this is all about getting his game in shape for the major championships. I do think that he understands now he can step on the gas pedal and things can get really good really quickly, but he also has to dial it back a few notches as well. This is last stroke play event before the Masters. He'll play the match play next week. I think that he wants to get things dialed in to where he's comfortable with his game to go out there and win another major championship. I like him a lot this week. It's a short number. You mentioned a good field. JT, Jordan, Burns, Fitz, Fleetwood. There's a massive drop-off after that top tier, and I would be surprised if we don't see one of these top-tier guys win this week.
One thing, I was peeking at the Masters odds this morning, and, obviously the top 3 guys are under 10-1, but, Jordan is a guy, he's definitely been better this year than JT, Finau, a lot of the other top Ryder Cup type guys, besides maybe Max would be right up there. But for the Masters, if he's right around 20-1, that feels, especially if he plays well up until then, because he has had like 2 out of 4 rounds at these big tournaments. He's looked awesome. He just hasn't been able to kind of keep it together. Scheffler, Rahm, Rory, people are going to hammer those 3 guys, I think, for the Masters. But you would have to say Jordan, a guy with a lot of course history there. I might put a pretty early wager on him just because his odds are pretty tasty.
Yeah, if you'd asked me 3 months ago, and you probably did ask me this 3 months ago, but I was on Finau coming into the year. I thought this would be a good Finau spot. He's played well. He's been okay. No. I mean, he hasn't been bad, just he hasn't been great. And the one thing I always say about the Masters is that you don't find your game driving down Magnolia Lane. You either got it or you don't. It doesn't show up that week. And so I want guys that have played well over the course of the first 3 months of the year before they get there. Jordan certainly in the mix. Patrick Cantlay has been sort of sneakily playing very decent golf over the last couple of months. He's the guy that I'm looking at as well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked last week, and you admitted that Max is better than you thought. I mean, he's over a 4-round period, he's really kind of separated himself. Hovland has been doing this a little longer than Max at the highest level, but Max is really, I feel pretty good about my future wager on him in the U.S. Open, just because I think that I think I got him at 36-1. That number will be in the 20s by then.
Jeff Sherman, again, when we spoke with him, said Max will be the 4th favorite by the time we get to U.S. Open week, and it might be like 15-1 or shorter. I mean, like literally everyone in the entire golf betting industry is on Max Homa for the U.S. Open, and that's usually a bad news. Usually when it's like, hey, the public's on this one guy, it usually doesn't happen. But we saw it last year at the Country Club in Brookline. Everybody on Matt Fitzpatrick. Oh, he won the USAM here. You figure lightning's not going to strike twice, and then he goes out and wins again, and everybody was on it. So I can certainly see Max winning that one.
Like you said, specifically on this tournament, there's obviously a drop off of the top guys. If you don't want to take, whether it's Jordan, I couldn't take JT. I've wasted too much money on him this year. A Fleetwood, if it's Patrick, JT Poston, some win equity. He's got a pretty long number. Sam Ryder has played well this year. A long number. Now, is he going to win? Then there's like the Damons and the Woodlands. It's hard. You're kind of shooting fish in a barrel, taking some of these guys in tournaments like this, and these tournaments are going to become pretty in vogue moving forward, like these type fields, right? So what's the strategy on betting him if you don't want to take a guy like 12-1? Because if Jordan has a bad Thursday, you're kind of fucked,
Yeah, no doubt. I would look even further down the board. I mean, I love.
I saw you had Akshay.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to Akshay. Justin Suh is playing some really good golf. I went and looked. Tee to green. We say it every week. Tee to green is important. If you suck at hitting driver and suck at hitting your irons, this just in, you're probably not going to win a golf tournament. Justin Suh has gained strokes tee to green in his last 7. He's been like over a stroke and a half per round tee to green in 4 of his last 5. I mean, like really, really hitting it at an elite level. That said, his number right now is like 35-1 for a guy that's never really sniffed a serious title contention. I'm not sure that I want to go there at 35-1, but I really like the guy's game. Maybe a top 5, top 10 play, DFS lineups, stuff like that. And then, yeah, you mentioned Akshay. I'll get to Akshay. He's 90-1, which I think is a great number. Second place in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago. This is a kid who, and now has special temporary membership. He's got that weight lifted from his shoulder. He can play a little more freer. This is a kid who made his PGA Tour debut at this golf tournament 4 years ago. One of my favorite question and answer sessions ever, because in the second question ever of him being a professional, he was asked, how will you handle adversity? And Akshay responded, can you tell me what adversity is? Like literally and figuratively had never seen adversity. Just didn't know what the word meant, which I think is fantastic. He has dealt with a little adversity in his first 4 years as a pro, but this kid we've all known for a long time has a tremendous amount of talent. He's going to be very good. So I like him. And then look, if you're going after kids who are really good and looking for the future, this kid, Ludvig Aberg, he is from Sweden. He plays at, I believe, Texas Tech, number 1 ranked amateur in the world. I'm telling you, he is really, really good. We saw it a little bit at Bay Hill. He was in contention going into the weekend and didn't fall that far, finished in 24th place. Look, can an amateur win a PGA Tour event? If he is, it's going to be one like this where there's only a handful of superstars, and his game is probably as good as half the PGA Tour players out there right now. So maybe.
Are there rules if you win it? You're like, actually, I'm a pro now. Pay me my money. I'm not going back to school, or you got to declare that before you tee off on Thursday?
You think with the NIL stuff now that they'd be able to give him a nice big check and he'd be able to claim something, but I don't still.
Is Akshay's lady still caddying for him, or has he moved on to an actual caddy?
I don't think so. Akshay might have a lot of ladies now. He took his shirt off 3 times playing the Honda a few weeks ago, so he might have more ladies.
Listen, we learned Hovland may never win, but if you just took a strategy of taking $1,000 any big tournament he played in, putting it 500 on top 5, 500 on top 10, you would make a lot of money, because that guy's floor, for a guy that's probably not going to win many times, he is going to just, he's 6th, he's 3rd, he's 4th. I mean, that guy is a cash machine.
I know. There's something about Hovland that I'm not quite there on him yet. I liked him last week and he played really well. I'm not quite there. Just talking to him, I don't get the sense that, like, he's Scottie Scheffler. You go, man, that dude loves golf. Like, I guarantee after he won on Sunday night, Monday morning, he flew back home and was at the range by noon and was working on stuff and was just hitting balls because he loves playing golf. I'm not sure I get that same sense from Victor Hovland. That said, he is wildly talented. He's shown up on all these leaderboards. Yeah, I've been wrong before. Maybe he, loves it more than I think. Maybe he practices and burns and desires for it way more than I think, but I don't know. There's just something that's just missing a little bit from Victor that I'd like to see.
Well, I think his major record actually wasn't very good up until last year at the Open when he played with Rory. But Hatton's another guy that at the majors for top 10s is going to feel like a guy with some momentum that his game translates, because he was rolling on Sunday.
It was weird to see him out there smiling, wasn't it?
I know it was.
I don't like it. I want Hatton on my TV throwing clubs in the water and giving his caddy the finger and yelling at people. I don't want to see Hatton smiling around that place, but no, he was absolutely on fire. 7 birdies on the back 9, and one of the par 5s he parred. I mean, that could have been 8 under. I mean, that could have been something really, really special for Hatton there, but tied the low score ever on the back 9 at Sawgrass. And yeah, you're right. This is a guy who plays hard golf courses really well. We've seen it at Bay Hill the last few years. I almost feel like with Hatton, he either really loves a golf course or really, really hates a golf course.
He hates Augusta.
Before I bet on him, I'd like to go find Hatton on the range somewhere and be like, so what do you think of this golf course? Because his answer will tell you everything you need to know about whether you should play him or not.
Well, Sobel, have a good week. Don't spend too much time watching the CW over the weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.